Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for stopping by and talking to us on this St. Patrick's Day. It is March 17th, 2019, and you are listening to The Right of the People. You are not having a hallucination. It is, in fact, Sunday. I know that the intro said we do this on Fridays, and normally we do this on Fridays, but as I stated earlier, last week and on some of the other people's shows this week, that I was going to be camping Friday, so I was, and it was miserable and cold and wet, and I dropped my phone in the creek, and it's kind of a brick now, so yeah, it was all wonderful. But here I am tonight. I took some comp time. I don't have to work tonight, so I figured I'd spend some time with you guys. Frustrated Buckeye, good to see you from Lorain County, where I'm here in Carroll County, and glad to have you with us. Speaking of with us, out there in the, well, first here on the panel, we got David Bowling, the Kingpin himself. How you doing, sir?
Doing mighty well. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
No problem. Always good to have you on the panel. I'm kind of going to try to waste a little time, give some more people some time to show up. Maybe get a couple more people on the panel. If not, me and Kingpin can handle this, I think. You guys out there aren't going to be too rowdy, are you? Yeah, 7. It was a camping adventure, all right.
We got mad sexy. We got mad sexy out there. You know, you got to keep an eye on him.
Oh my! How do you even get a wrench? What the hell? What was I thinking? Out there on the chat, we got Mateo 1371. He was first by a long shot. The gun snob was very shortly thereafter. We got Jason Stewart, 7 Wonders, the aforementioned Mad Sexy, the new guy, Frustrated Buckeye. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. The Kingpin himself is out there pulling double duty. Doesn't look like we have anyone else over on the Gun Channel side, which, oh, by the way, we are simulcast on Gun Channels as well as the YouTubes. Gun Channels is, for those that don't know, is the water cooler of the Internet's Second Amendment community. You can find someone to talk with and something to talk about 24/7, 365. It is absolutely free to join, and I highly recommend it. Yes, so go on over to gunchannels.com and check that out. So, really what we're talking about tonight, you know, I'm not working, so we can go wherever we want to go tonight, for one. And for two, we are going to start with the horrific, I don't know that I want to say tragedy, but the monstrosity, because I don't think tragedy is a strong enough word for this. The monstrous act of a vile, disgusting, horrible waste of humanity that he perpetrated on those mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand. I don't know if any of you have seen the video of that. I am not going to show it. I'm not going to put it on at all. I'm not going to put it on. I'm not going to link to it. I'm not going to show it. It's just, but I felt that I had to watch it so that I can intelligently discuss this. If you haven't seen it, don't. It's horrible is the only thing I can say.
Yeah, a tragedy would be more like the airplane crash that happened the other day.
That's atrocity is what this was.
There you go.
This was an atrocity. It wasn't a tragedy. You know, I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your nationality is. I don't care what your racial makeup is. I don't care what your political affiliation is. I don't care anything about you. But this, that nobody deserved what happened to those people. I watched that monster go into that mosque and just gun people down like he was playing a game. And it was vile. And especially if you see it, I can't imagine witnessing something like that in person, because witnessing it in first person via this guy's camera, because this sick bastard live streamed it on Facebook, and it was visceral. It really hits you in the gut. And I am, given that I do this show every week, I am probably one of the most pro-gun people you'll ever see. But I can see how some people would have their opinions swayed by this video. Mine, of course, isn't. I am as ardent a supporter of the Second Amendment as I always have been. But I can see the other side of that argument using this as some very effective propaganda. It's stunning in its effect. Did you watch it, Kingpin? Have you seen it?
I've seen parts of it here and there, but I haven't seen the meat of the video. And I'm not interested in watching that. I know what happened.
You don't want to.
And there's no secret for my disdain for the left, for progressives, for Democrats. And I call it out, and I challenge people who say I shouldn't say Democrat or left. I should say anti-this. Well, debate me anytime you want on that kind of stuff.
Well, who are the people that are putting forth these laws?
Well, I'm talking about this specific person. This is beyond left and right.
Oh,
this
yeah.
guy was so full of hatred, and I'm not going to call him mentally ill. He
knew what he was doing.
He knew exactly what he was doing, and that's a disservice that we're going to do to mentally ill people and the cause, is by saying that he was crazy.
He wasn't crazy.
No,
he's not crazy.
Evil.
He's evil.
That's it. And that's no left, no right, no center. That's just plain evil. And this is a time where, everybody talks about unity and coming together and all that. Here's one opportunity where we can reach across the aisle and we can say, look, he did in his manifesto, there was stuff listed that was anti-you and anti-me. It was anti-humanity. And we need to come together on that to understand.
I haven't read the manifesto. I haven't been able to bring myself to read his words.
But what's happened already is it's Trump's fault. It's Nancy Pelosi's fault. It's this fault. It's that fault. This guy hated everybody. And that's why he did what he did. And that's why he did it the way he did it, is to cause everyone to fight. And if we allow that to happen, he's won. And I agree with you. There is no description for how vile and disgusting that person is and what he did. It's just absolutely sickening. And I agree with you. I've said it before. A dead body is a very reactive thing. And not that person dead, because obviously if you're dead, you're not reacting to anything. But the people standing around looking at that body, they want answers as to why that body's laying there. And when it's got a bullet hole in it, their first thing is, a gun did that to my friend. A gun did that to Jane Doe or John Smith. So if we get rid of the gun, then we can stop that. If we get rid of the knife, we can stop that. If we get rid of the speech that I'm not comfortable with, we can stop that. And I don't know. It's just breathtaking on how far away from our original intent the human spirit has come.
Yeah. It, you know, in my line of work, I see flat out evil people all the time. Yeah, they're underage, they're kids, quote unquote, but evil's evil. And this guy, the atrocity that he committed was just plain evil. Um, Unfortunately, there are cynical sorts who would exploit this. As Rahm Emanuel said, never let a tragedy go to waste. And they're not. And they do it. They do it every time. I don't. Um, I can't say that this is anything different from what they usually do, but maybe it's just hitting me harder this time because I saw the video of what this fella did, first person perspective, and it what he did sickens me and horrifies me, and it just, I mean, I'm having a hard time, really reconciling in my mind what that a human being would be capable of doing what I saw him do. And maybe that's why this time the response from the usual suspects is just horrifying me like it is. But these people are using this atrocity. Again, I'm trying to avoid the word tragedy because a tragedy is, something different. This a tragedy may be something that accidentally happens. My daughter being killed in a car wreck while she was on her way to school was a tragedy. This was intentional. It's an atrocity, and for them to use this atrocity to further their own agenda is just plain despicable. It is egregiously filthy in its premise. Uh you know, there are those that say that the only thing that stops a bad guy is a good guy with a gun, and that's not necessarily true because in this instance, the bad guy was stopped and dissuaded in his second because he went to one mosque and then shot people there and then went to another mosque and started shooting people there. But he was driven off by one of the attendees who was unarmed, who had grabbed a gun he'd discarded, tried to shoot him with it. It was empty. He threw it at him. Then he threw a copier or something at him. And eventually he drove the guy off. And then an armed bystander outside was shooting at the monster and finished driving him off. So you can't say that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. However, I'm sure that every single person who is affected by this would not say no if they could go back in time and put an armed person there to defend those people at that first mosque and possibly take out the attacker. No, I don't know that things would have been different. We can't say that. We can never say that for sure. But I know the odds would have been better. And I'm pretty sure that everybody there would agree with me.
So there's one thing there to be said about, like I was talking about earlier, the human spirit. And it's hard for somebody to take something from you when you've got something that you care about. And I'm not talking about, your wallet. I'm talking about the safety of your family, the well-being of your family, the peace of mind that you have when you lay in bed at night. For the bad guy to come take that from you, that's hard for them to do that because I'm holding on to what's right. Like you were just talking about the guy who ran him off without a firearm. That was freedom defending itself. That was the human spirit saying, you're not going to come in here and take something from me without a fight. Whether I have a gun, whether I have a tank, or whether I poke you to death with my fingernails, you're going to have to take it from me. If you want it that bad, you better come and take it, because I'm not just going to lay down and let you have it. And thank God that humans have that spirit, because if not, this world would be a way, way, way more evil place than it is.
And that's, you know, I think that part of the fervent belief from the anti-gunners that if we just get rid of all the guns, then everything will be fine, stems from a denial that there's evil in the world. For some of them. With others, it's much more cynical. But I think that there are those that truly believe that because they refuse to accept that there's evil and that evil won't be stopped from doing what it wants to do. Rich White out there says that he read what the piece of crap wrote in his manifesto on Sarge's show last night, and what the Dems are doing is one of the reasons he said he did it. And that very well may be true. As I said, I haven't read it. Maybe I should. I didn't want to. I didn't want to give voice to him by reading it, but maybe in order to better understand and more intelligently comment on this, I should have.
I think one of the problems that I have with the nobody should have guns people is a lot of them have this false sense of security that the cops will be there to protect you, the government will be there to protect you, or things like you said aren't really that bad out there. You don't need a gun to protect yourself because you're not going to get robbed. But in the same, right on the same side of the coin, they'll talk about how dangerous things are because a gun is out there, or this is out there, or that is out there. So just because, right now for the past 40 years nobody's robbed me in my house doesn't mean that by the end of the night somebody won't.
Yeah. I've never understood the mentality that says that when the wolves attack the sheep, you pull the sheepdog's teeth. That way it'll make the sheep safer. I've never understood that. And this flock was massacred because there were no sheepdogs to protect them. Again, we cannot say with any true certainty that things would have been better. We can't. We're not one of the precogs for Minority Report. We can't look at the future, but what we can do is use our intellect to tell us that the odds would have been better, and they would have been better if someone had been there to defend these people. All they did was huddle in the corners and got shot repeatedly, over and over. The son of a bitch even went out to his vehicle, got another firearm, went in and kept shooting them and executing them and giving them finishing shots. It if someone had been there and been armed, he may have been driven off. We know that it has happened before. Look at Sutherland Springs, Texas, where that piece of garbage got driven off because there was a man outside, a neighbor, bare feet with his own AR-15, firing on him when he went outside. Yeah, Rich says he wrote essentially that his doing what he did would lead the left to increase the push for gun control, which would incite the right to push back and eventually lead to race war here. He might be right. He might be right. I don't know that it would be an absolute proximate cause, but it would certainly contribute to that sort of scenario. And I don't know what to do about it. We have all I have a tons of articles pulled up about this, that says what, for instance, let me get into reading some of this. This is from the New York Times. The headline is New Zealand shooting. These are live updates. There will be changes to gun laws, Prime Minister says. So it's already going to be happening in New Zealand. New Zealand grappled with grief and horror on Sunday, 2 days after a gunman opened fire at 2 mosques in the city of Christchurch, killing at least 50 people. The terrorist attack appeared to have been carried out by a white nationalist who posted a racist manifesto online and streamed a live video of the killings on Facebook. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said on Sunday that the suspect, an Australian, would be tried in New Zealand and that her government would discuss gun regulation at a meeting on Monday. There will be changes to our gun laws, she said. Minutes before the shooting began on Friday, Ms. Ardern was emailed a copy of the manifesto purported to be from the gunman, her office said. Many news outlets and lawmakers also received the email. The family of the suspect, identified in court papers as Brenton Harrison Tarrant, 28, has apologized for the attack. In an interview published online on Sunday by Australia's Nine News, his grandmother said the family was shattered and denounced his actions as unrepairable. He will be tried in New Zealand, Prime Minister says. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said Sunday that the suspect charged in the Christchurch shootings, an Australian citizen, would be tried in New Zealand. He said he would face more charges, but she did not say whether terrorism charges were being considered. Well, they should be. He committed violence for political gain, or political motivations. That's the dictionary definition of terrorism. She said she was seeking advice on whether Mr. Tarrant might be extradited to Australia, but that his trial would take place in New Zealand. Ms. Gun regulations under review. Ms. Ardern said that her government would discuss the New Zealand's gun laws at a meeting on Monday. There will be changes to our gun laws, she said at an afternoon news conference. She also said she would look into reports that there had been a surge in gun sales in New Zealand since the attack on Friday. The shooting has vaulted New Zealand into what could be a divisive political battle over gun control in the country, where many people own weapons with few restrictions. The authorities say the suspect in the assault used 5 guns he had acquired legally, including 2 semi-automatic weapons. Within hours of the Friday killings, the Prime Minister promised to change gun laws and said regulations of semi-automatic weapons were one of the issues. New Zealand's Attorney General, David Parker, appeared to go beyond that statement at a vigil for the victims on Saturday, indicating that semi-automatic weapons would be banned, but he later backtracked. Mr. Parker told Radio New Zealand that he'd been trying to reflect Ms. Ardern's comments that we need to ban semi-automatics, perhaps all of them. Those decisions have yet to be taken, but the Prime Minister has signaled that we are going to look at the issue, Mr. Parker told the broadcaster. Licensed New Zealand gun owners pushed back. The Kiwi Gun Blog, a gun rights online publication, said that one of the assailants' goals was to cause the gun rights of responsible New Zealanders to be attacked. It said, our Prime Minister is now capitulating with him. There is no dispute that acquiring military-style semi-automatic weapon is relatively easy in New Zealand, where guns are plentiful. According to a 2017 small arms survey, there were more than 1.2 million firearms among the population of 4.6 million. Under New Zealand law, anyone 16 or older may seek a firearms license, and anyone 18 or older who has applied for a firearms license can seek a permit to possess a military-style semi-automatic weapon. In the United States, the National Rifle Association, a leading advocate of gun owner rights, issued its first statement on the attack, denouncing the killer while saying nothing about the weapons used. It doesn't matter if these senseless tragedies occur in the United States or abroad. Our deepest sympathies are with the victims and their families, said Andrew Arulanandam, a spokesman for the group. This was the act of a monster. To the extent the NRA is ridiculed for extending our deepest sympathies to those impacted by this horrific event, we make no apologies for our thoughts, words, or prayers. It goes on to talk about how he was a member of a rifle club and whatnot, and about how the victims' lives are shattered and etc. New York Times, being as biased as it is, it doesn't shock me that they say that there are little to no restrictions, and it's so easy to get
Military.
guns in New Zealand. Let me see if I can find.
That's one of the things that I was talking about earlier, that false sense of security, that if we add one more law, all things will be great. And then when that
Yeah.
law doesn't work, we'll add one more law, and then all things will be great. Laws aren't they're a deterrent. They're when you do this, this is what's going to happen to you. But it doesn't say you can't do this. Like a law against speeding doesn't mean when you get out on the highway, your car won't go over the speed limit. You can go over the speed limit all you want, and when you get caught, there's consequences for it. But that sign on the side of the road doesn't determine how fast your car goes.
Exactly. That means nothing to the foot on the pedal. This is a piece by Breitbart from March 15th. CNN, mosque attacks show New Zealand gun control too lax. CNN responded to the heinous attacks in Christchurch by claiming that New Zealand's gun control is too lax. The CNN headline read, now think about this for a second, people. Think about what kinds of gun controls they have in New Zealand, which we're going to talk about. And that CNN and the left here in America, by extension, are saying that this stuff is too lax. Because what's already in place in New Zealand is going to sound awful familiar because it's some of the things they're trying to get enacted here now that they think are too lax. CNN headline read, Christchurch massacre highlights lax New Zealand gun control laws. They report that would-be gun owners must first acquire a license and undergo a background check, then suggest that New Zealand lacks firearm registration. They report gun owners do need a license, but they aren't required to register their guns. That's too lax. CNN links to a New Zealand police source citing no overarching registration requirement. However, CNN missed the fact that New Zealand police are that the New Zealand police note a specific endorsement requirement for each military-style semi-automatic pistol and restricted weapon. In other words, there is a means of registration required for certain types of weapons in New Zealand, and those types of weapons include handguns and some of the firearms used in the mosque attacks. For example, the University of Sydney's gunpolicy.org reports, in New Zealand, private possession of handguns is restricted to police-approved licensed gun owners with a pistol license endorsement. Each handgun must be registered to its owner and securely stored. Moreover, New Zealand keeps a registry of every resident licensed to own a gun. According to gun policy, in New Zealand, authorities maintain a record of individual citizens licensed to acquire, possess, sell, or transfer a firearm or ammunition. Let me go out here on the stream. Hold on a sec. Philip M. I'm late to the stream. Have you guys touched on the story's Shooter's manifesto, where he detailed that part of what he wanted to achieve was a push for further gun control here in the States? Yeah, it was mentioned out in the chat, and we talked about it a bit. I have not read his manifesto because I did not wish to give his words any air. Maybe I do need to read it, but I'm certainly not going to read it on the air because I don't want to spread his message any further than it already is. But yes, we have discussed it. Meanwhile, back here in the U.S., Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who I've heard called occasional Cortex because, maybe her brain works sometimes, uses New Zealand mosque terror attack to attack the NRA. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat, New York, used the news of the terror attack at two mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand on Friday by attacking the National Rifle Association. The attack, which occurred during Friday prayers, has killed 49 people as of this writing. And of course, this was from March 15th. It's up to at least 50 now. In the two tweets, Ocasio-Cortez mocked the idea of sending thoughts and prayers to the victims of the shootings. After significant pushback, she clarified that the target of her criticism was the NRA. At first, I thought of saying, imagine being told your house of faith isn't safe anymore, she tweeted. But I couldn't say imagine, because of Charleston, Pittsburgh, Sutherland Springs. What good are your thoughts and prayers when they don't even keep the pews safe? She concluded. Well, I can tell you that in Sutherland Springs, it wasn't thoughts and prayers that kept the pews safe. It was a barefoot neighbor with an AR-15 that ended that attack. Advocates of gun control on the left have begun to mass shooting events. What the hell? This sentence sucks. Advocates of gun control on the left have begun to mass shooting events by disdaining the expression thoughts and prayers and treating it as an excuse for legislative inaction rather than as a genuine expression of sympathy and anguish. Left-wing critics have also taken to using the phrase thoughts and prayers as a way to mock the NRA, even outside the context of a shooting event. Last year, for example, liberal celebrities wished thoughts and prayers to the NRA after reports that it was having financial trouble. In that vein, Ocasio-Cortez added a subsequent tweet to clarify her meaning in the original one. Thoughts and prayers is a reference to the NRA's phrase used to deflect conversation away from the policy change during tragedies, not directed at PM Ardern, who I greatly admire. The NRA had not, and of this writing still has not. So after that, they did have they did make their statement, which they referenced being mocked about thoughts and prayers. The NRA, there's still no evidence that they invented the phrase thoughts and prayers. Yeah. Moreover, New Zealand already has gun control measures similar to those Democrats want to pass into law in the United States, including universal background checks. And the NRA has argued that a better way to stop mass shootings would be to encourage responsible gun ownership and make armed guards available to vulnerable targets like schools. Early reports from Christchurch indicate that an armed Muslim man helped chase away assailants from the second mosque that was attacked. Also here in the U.S., Shannon Watts from Mom Screeching for Attention. Let me get this to pull up. My computer's running slow. I have a lot of windows open. Shannon Watts presents New Zealand gun control as model for the U.S. Moms Demand Action founder Shannon Watts suggests New Zealand gun control is a model for United States lawmakers. Watts responded to news that New Zealand plans to ban all semi-automatic rifles by tweeting, New Zealand banned semi-automatic rifles less than 24 hours after the Christchurch mass shooting. Imagine elected officials putting public safety over gun manufacturers' profits. Americans deserve better than lawmakers who are letting gun lobbyists write our nation's gun laws. Well, maybe they just think that Americans deserve the ability to defend themselves. Possibly. Maybe. I don't know.
Watch
it. Go ahead.
Their whole corporate, the NRA spends money in politics and gun manufacturers make the government too much money is such a paper tiger because the unions pay and the Democrats and the news and the media and all, it's all corrupted everywhere. And it really makes me angry when no one stands up to that. Like when they say, the NRA's got too much money and politics are dirty because the NRA's money. No one ever jumps up and says, well, what about all the all the people that donate to the Democrats and donate
What about Bloomberg's money that funds Moms Demand Attention by screeching and hollering?
Yeah, no, what they do is when somebody like you, Budget, will step up and say, well, wait a second, let me ask a question. CNN will smash you all over the news and talk about how cold-hearted and bloodlusty you are and how you attack these poor, struggling mothers who only want to stop the violence.
Yep. Out in the chat. Let me go back to the chat. I haven't been looked there in a minute. I've been reading. Yes, Alaskan AK guy, we're talking about the New Zealand shooting and the subsequent renewed cries for gun control here in the U.S. as a result of it. How the media and the politicians on the left are, again, never failing to allow a tragedy to go to waste. Even though this isn't a tragedy, it's an atrocity. Looking through all this other stuff. But yeah, Tacos of French Fry says I'm correct about Bloomberg. Yeah, absolutely. They deplore the NRA spending money on lobbyists, but Bloomberg is about to sink $500 million into the next presidential race, even though he decided he's not running because, get this, he can do more as a private citizen than he can as a president. Think about that. This guy believes he has more power than the so-called most powerful man in the world, and he's decided that being president will hamper him too much. So, wow, he's going to put at least $500 million, probably closer to $1 billion in this. But the NRA is buying politicians. Yeah. Let's see. Watts did not point out that the attacker possessed 5 guns legally, and only 2 of those were semi-automatic rifles. Therefore, even with a ban, he would have possessed the majority of his weapons for the attack. Moreover, Watts did not mention that New Zealand has all the gun controls Democrats are pushing for in the U.S. None of those controls, however, prevented the mosque attacks. So talking about, let's go ahead and look at an article, same source, Breitbart, that talks about what those restrictions are. Let's see. This is from a piece called Restrictive Gun Control Did Not Prevent Christchurch Massacre. New Zealand requires licensing and in-depth background checks for would-be gun owners, but neither gun control policy prevented Friday's attacks in Christchurch that killed nearly 50 people. The University of Sydney's gunpolicy.org describes New Zealand's gun control as restrictive because owning guns in that nation is not a guaranteed right, but a privilege extended by the government. Moreover, before legally owning a gun, residents must acquire a license. The acquisition of that license involves passage of a background check that considers criminal, mental health, medical, addiction, and domestic violence records. Third-party references must also be provided to the authorities during the license procurement process, and interviews are conducted with the applicant's immediate family. Even after licensing, New Zealanders cannot buy a handgun or military-style semi-automatic without providing an acceptable explanation for why they want such a firearm. Additionally, those firearms must be registered with the central government upon acquisition. It is illegal to sell a gun to anyone without a license, which means the background checks for license acquisition are universal. They cover all gun sales and transfers. And in the event that an individual is buying a gun from a friend or neighbor instead of retail, the buyer is obliged to pass official background checks before taking possession. Also, the number and type of firearms which can be sold by a licensed gun dealer to a single gun owner is limited to 1 pistol, military-style semi-automatic firearm, or restricted firearm per acquisition permit. Further, the gun show sales are highly regulated in New Zealand. Democrat lawmakers in the U.S. are promoting many of these very gun controls: universal background checks, licensing, more gun show regulation, limits on the number of guns that can be purchased, etc., arguing that these measures will make Americans safe. It is not yet clear how the killer in Christchurch acquired his weapons, yet we see that these gun controls did not prevent an attack that killed nearly 50 unarmed innocents. Going on to the next one, well, since that piece was written, they did find out that he indeed bought all of his weapons legally. New Zealand attacker purchased all firearms legally. This is again by A.W.R. Hawkins on March 16th in Breitbart. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said Christchurch shooting suspect Brenton Tarrant had a license to own guns and obtained the 5 guns used in the mosque attacks via that license. This means that Tarrant was not only licensed, but passed criminal, mental, and health-related background checks. Business Standard reports that Tarrant allegedly used 2 semi-automatic rifles, 2 shotguns, and a lever-action weapon. Ardern suggested Tarrant's acquisition of 5 such firearms indicates more gun control is needed. She said, the mere fact that this individual had acquired a gun license and acquired weapons of that range, then obviously I think people will be seeking change, and I'm committing to that. Ardern added, while work is being done as a chain of events that led to both the holding of this gun license and the possession of these weapons, I can tell you one thing right now, our gun laws will change. Ardern noted that Tarrant was not on any watch list, that he had not drawn the government's attention via extremism of any sort. Therefore, as with so many high-profile attackers in the U.S., there was nothing to prevent him from passing background checks to acquire a gun license. Background checks cannot stop a determined attacker because these checks look backward. They search for past crimes and problems. If the would-be attacker has criminal or terror-based intentions but lacks any criminal or terror-based history, gun control will never stop him. However, gun control will render his victims less able to defend themselves. And that's it. That's it. I told you to pay attention earlier to what was coming here. All these gun controls that the left wants, the Democrats, let's just put that out there, that the Democrats, well, and some Republicans, I mean, look at Lindsey Graham saying that, we could come together on red flag bills. So I guess maybe I should put in the power elites, the hoplophobes, the gun grabbers, those who want us to be disarmed so that we can't defend ourselves against them. All these things that they want to put in place now, that they're pushing for now, all these background checks, all the purchase restrictions, all the licensing schemes, all the registration schemes that they have, that they want us to submit to, did jack shit to stop this guy. And since they did jack shit to stop this guy, now they're not enough. I've told you that time and time again, that once you give them the 1 inch, they're going to try to take that mile at the next available opportunity. And that's just what they were waiting on to happen over there. And that's just what they're trying to do here. Don't fall for that bullshit, because that's exactly what it is. Bullshit. Gun control is never about the gun. It's always about control. They don't give a damn about safety. They don't give a damn about crime. They don't give a damn about the kids killed at Parkland. They don't give a damn about the kids killed at Sandy Hook. They don't give a damn about those 50 people killed in those mosques. All they give a damn about is their own power and the increasing of it. And that's what gun control is about, people. The dirty, disgusting, egregiously filthy sons of bitches who would exploit the blood of these people are who are behind the gun control push in this country.
That's right.
Shit, man. I feel better now.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because what they'll do is they'll do, like I said earlier before, when they hear you say what you just said, it won't be, man, that guy's passionate. Yeah, he's right. It's that guy hates the kids. And he doesn't care about the kids getting killed. He doesn't care about what. Then they'll say, "You'll care when your mom gets shot."
That's the kind of says, "I am Night Strike angry too." Yeah, that's it. I'm Night Strike angry, ain't I? I don't. Well, yeah, I did cuss a little bit. Oops. Quick, someone called midnight. I might win this week.
That's what a lot of people. I mean, you got to understand that what you're saying is absolutely right. They want your guns so they can shut your mouth.
Because
if you got a gun, you can open your mouth. If you like free speech, you better like the Second Amendment. If you like the Fourth Amendment, protection against them coming in your house whenever they feel like it and looking through your stuff, you better like the Second Amendment. Because that's what they want. They want to shut you up and turn you into a little tiny slave.
That's it. That's it. They don't want citizens, they want subjects.
Yep.
They want people who will blindly and meekly do what they want and vote for them so that they can stay in power, that they can increase their power, that they can control every aspect of people's lives. Because that's what they want to do. I don't understand the mentality that wants to do these things, that feels that they have to control somebody. I mean, look at Bloomberg. He's a perfect example of this, with the no salt on the dining room table in restaurants in New York. The you can only sell sugary drinks of up to a certain size. They want to control what you eat. They want to control what you drink. They want to control what you see. Look at how Facebook censors people, how Instagram censors people, how YouTube is censoring people. Look at how the mainstream media decides what they're going to say and what they're not going to say. What they don't tell you the pertinent details from half of the stories. For instance, that fellow in Houston who had 5 guys come into his house and he fought them off with an AK-47 with a 30-round magazine. They didn't mention that last part. They decide what they want you to eat, drink, see, hear, and think.
Now, see, I can understand the desire to want to control, that's not hard for me to grasp. Why somebody, especially somebody with power and money already, would want to control people. The problem that I see is why people want to be controlled. And that's what
Yeah,
really
well, there's
fires
that
me up,
too.
is the people that willingly give away their freedom to a government or an agency or any your next door neighbor. You're I don't want you to control me. I want to be able to make the decisions I make for myself and deal with those consequences. As long as I'm not hurting you and I'm a consenting adult, let me do what I want to do and let me deal with the problem after that. But there's a lot of people that say, "No, here, daddy, take care of me. Here's everything about me. Take care of me." And that's the part that I can't understand is willing slaves.
Because in exchange for that slavery, they are absolved from responsibility. That's it. They don't have to think. They don't have to make decisions. They don't have to work. They don't have to do anything other than obey their masters, and they'll be taken care of. And they just want to be taken care of. As long as they have their Obama phone and their hot pockets and their football on TV, they're happy. You know, maybe a beer once in a while or whatever, and they're happy. You know, they think that, you know, they'll have their free college and their free medical care and, you know, that free education that everybody's gets, you know, that'll be top of the line, and their kids will be able to get good jobs and whatever. But one, why the hell would you ever work if you don't have to? And number two, do you really think that an education given for free is going to be of any quality? You really think that a healthcare given for quote unquote free is going to be of any quality? And nothing given for free is really worth having. There's always a catch because there ain't no such thing as a free lunch, folks. Never has been, never will be. There's always a catch. There's always a price that you pay. And they're willing to pay that price of their freedom. They're willing to accept their chains as long as it comes with a security blanket.
Well, if you talk to the people that believe in that, just back to what the one small topic, like wealth redistribution, they think that, there's this income gap and this disparity between the rich and the haves and the have-nots. So we should all be on equal ground. And they think that they're going to be on equal ground with Bill Gates. So they
Yeah.
they think that the government's going to bring everybody up out of the lower class, middle class, upper middle class into the 1%. When that's not what's going to happen. They're going to smash everybody in the 99% down to the 0.001%. And then the same
Yeah.
rich people are still going to be just as rich and just as powerful.
Absolutely right. That's exactly what I was going to say. You know, the top people, the wealthy people, the powerful people will remain top, wealthy, and powerful. Everybody else who might have had an opportunity to reach those heights is going to get crushed back down into the scum because that's how it has worked. Every single place that socialism/communism has been tried, everywhere. It has not. There is not one where the top people sacrificed their wealth and power, gave it to the poor people, and everybody met in the middle, and everybody was all happy, kumbaya, singing around the campfire, eating peeled grapes. That shit doesn't happen. Never has, never will.
No, you got a big fat leader, just like we'll use North Korea, for example, since that's a popular thing that everybody can visualize. Kim Jong Un is fat and happy as can be, and everybody else in the government and everybody else in the regular populace is starving and skinny. So how is it possible that the leader is fat and happy? Nicolas Maduro, big fat happy guy. People are eating pelicans and goldfish in Venezuela. Castro had the best medical care forever, and the guy down the street was couldn't drive his '57 Chevy because not only '57 Chevy was the only car that they were allowed to have, so they took lawnmower parts off of it to try to drive their car. The leaders are always fat and happy, and everybody else is always suffering.
And that's what they want for us. You know, I'll never I'll never accept it. You know, so there it is, folks. You know, I took up the whole show with this New Zealand thing. And I did it because I wanted to illustrate how anytime something horrific and atrocious like this happens, the same people that are calling for gun safety, common sense gun safety reform, use that tragedy to exploit it for their own political gain. These are the same people that want to take over 90% of the economy for this Green New Deal garbage. These are the same people that want to expand their power base by allowing more illegal aliens in and eventually giving them the vote. These are the same people that want to expand their power base by giving 16-year-olds the vote, because let's face it, I apologize to any 16-year-olds that are out there. 16-year-olds are stupid and gullible and easily swayed. That's why they want them. You know, these are the same conniving, scheming, egregiously filthy people doing all of this. And understand that once they get what they say they want, they're going to want more. They're going to want more. You know, and that's proven because New Zealand has everything that they say they want here. But the first tragedy that comes up, they want more. Rich White says 18-year-olds are stupid and gullible. And I say, yes, I think really we need to raise the voting age to 21, but
How
no
about
one's gonna
35?
no one's gonna like that. Maybe even 35, yeah. You know, I think that honestly, I prefer the Starship Troopers method of it, not the movie, but the book, where you need to serve in some capacity in order to gain true citizenship in the franchise. You need to have some skin in the game. That would be my preference. But that'll never, ever happen. Let's see, what's this? Let's see. Someone out there says Trump used to hand out $20 bills to homeless people in New York. Most other free things come at a cost. Well, I would say that even that was a cost. That wasn't free because he was getting publicity out of it. And he was getting to be able to say, look how generous I am. It was really, really huge. You know, Grim 90 is absolutely right. It says they will want more that will vote on emotion instead of thinking. You know, the saying goes, I don't know where it comes from, so I can't attribute the source. The saying goes that if you're under 30 and you're a conservative, you have no heart. If you're over 30 and you're a liberal, you have no brain. I think it's true. That's why they want younger people to be able to vote, because they know how they're going to vote. Anyhow, let's go ahead and move from the most depressing and horrible show I've ever had to do to
Really?
yeah, it was horrible and depressing to me, the entire subject matter.
Well, you know, you could always talk about what happened in Iowa. Make it a little more upbeat.
What happened in Iowa?
They the Iowa government went and added an amendment to their state constitution, giving the people an absolute right to keep and bear arms.
That's awesome.
You know,
I would
because
say they wouldn't give them the right. I think that it was already pre-existing, but yeah.
Well, they were enforcing the right on the state constitution, so it couldn't be legally challenged. I guess it's a better.
That's awesome.
Because their state constitution before that didn't. I guess the people who put the constitution in place didn't feel that it was necessary to say the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and I guess because of that oversight, they didn't want to make sure that they had that the anti-gunners or the anti-Americans, I'd say more than anti-gunners, could try and take it away. So they added it back in.
Outstanding.
Good news. I know a lot of bad news, but some good news.
Yeah, I'm down. I guess I'm all down at the mouth because I made the mistake of watching the video of what happened in New Zealand, and
Okay.
it was a gut punch.
Okay. I had to go to the hospital twice today. Okay. So don't tell me about being down. Okay. Just letting you know that.
Oh yeah, well my dad can beat up your dad. Shit, I didn't know it was a contest, dude.
I'll tell you off air, but it was.
Okay.
I've had a pretty
Well, I'm sorry to hear
bad
that, dude.
day. So
I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
anyways, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm sorry I came in at the end.
It's okay.
It's just, there's good news out there. I know there's good news. That's why the Iowa thing, it's still pretty fresh. That's good news.
Well,
I'm sure there's more good news if we look.
In keeping with my tradition of trying to end the show on a high note, I'm going to go into what is Roll Call 219's favorite segment of all, self-defense shout-outs. For those of you who are new to the show, and for those of you who are new to the show or who have never stuck around to the end, self-defense shout-outs are not where I'm reveling in the death or injury of the bad guy. It is, in fact, where I'm reveling in the fact that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to defend themselves from the bad guy. So, starting this one off is a piece from fox5atlanta.com. Homeowner finds intruder in his house, pulls out his gun, and shoots. Atlanta, Fox 5 Atlanta. When an Atlanta man walked into his house on Arthur Street Friday morning, he was startled when he saw an intruder. Police say that's when the homeowner grabbed his gun. He noticed the door was open. A man came out of a room yelling and screaming. The homeowner pulled out his firearm and fired several because he felt like his life was in danger, said Atlanta police officer Stephanie Brown. Wounded, the intruder ran out the back door. He made it to Cooper Street about a mile away. He knocked on a man's door begging for water. He told me he'd been shot and needed water. I told him I wasn't going to give him any water. He needed to call 911, said the man who answered the door. Police showed up, and it didn't take them long to figure out the man with bullet wounds in his leg was the intruder at the home on Arthur Street. His name is Kelvin White. He's charged with criminal trespass. Fox 5 has learned the 28-year-old was also charged with criminal trespass just 3 weeks ago. In that case, a homeowner on Lucille Avenue found White inside his home. That homeowner left, called 911, and arrested White. That was a poorly constructed sentence, too. Where are these editors coming from? Jeez. We do advise homeowners to exit the property and call the police so that we can handle it, said Officer Brown. The homeowner on Arthur Street handled things differently, and neighbor Jimmy Thompson says he did the right thing. Nobody ain't got no business on that property but the homeowner. That's private property. I'm surprised he didn't kill him, said Thompson. Police say the homeowner will not face charges, and that's the way that should be. And wrapping it up, last but certainly not least, this is from U.S. News and World Report, a piece by the AP from Murray, Utah. Murray homeowner fatally shoots intruder. Police in Murray are investigating after they said a homeowner shot and killed an intruder. Authorities on Monday identified the slain intruder as Andrew W. Miller. According to investigators, Miller entered the home just before 7 p.m. Sunday through a sliding glass door. Police spokesman Kenny Bass says there was damage, indicating Miller forced entry into the property. Upon encountering Miller, the homeowner shot him. Miller was... Where is it? Okay. Upon encountering Miller, the homeowner shot him. Miller was taken to a hospital where he died. Bass says it appears the men did not know each other and the shooting was done in self-defense. The homeowner is cooperating with police. So there you have it, folks. 2 cases where the good guy was able to come away without a scratch because they had the means, method, and opportunity to defend themselves and the will to use it. And that's the way that story should end. Not necessarily with the death of the bad guy, although if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and that's that. But, being able to defend yourself, that is a natural right that no man has the right to take from you. Well, all right. Let me go ahead with some final thoughts, last words, etc. Anything you need to bring in. Night Strike, let's go ahead and start with you.
I just want to mention that I believe Georgia also has castle doctrine, so I don't think they have a duty to retreat from their home when they're already in their damn home. And if somebody breaks in, well, God help them.
Absolutely right.
And the same thing goes for South Carolina as well. We do not have a duty to retreat even when we're not in our home. Okay.
Yep.
Where some states are duty to retreat. So
hey, wasn't there a county in South Carolina over this past week? It kind of got overshadowed by everything else, but over this past week that declared themselves a sanctuary county as well?
It was North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay.
North Carolina. We talked about it on Sarge's chat. You know what? Just give me 1 second. I think I got it saved here. Fox News article, I know that. Yeah. North Carolina County passes symbolic resolution declaring itself a gun sanctuary, which is more good news. Apparently, from what Sarge says, this county's all the way near Georgia. So it's at like the Georgia end of North Carolina. But a small county in North Carolina voted last week to declare itself a gun sanctuary. The Cherokee County Board of Commissioners voted 3-2 on March 6th for a symbolic resolution. It says, in part, that the county will defy efforts by state or federal government to enforce strict gun control laws. So,
Yep.
Cherokee County, North Carolina.
Good for them. Kingpin, anything you'd like to add, sir, to the conversation before we go?
Yeah, I just want to give you a big kudos because tonight was a really touchy subject, and from all the coverage I've heard all about it everywhere, you covered it the best. You handled it the best. The chat was stunning. There was so much good stuff going on in the chat. I'm just glad that I was able to be here and listen and read along with the chat. So thanks for having me, man. It's always a great time to do your show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really tried. I tried not to overreact to this. Tried not to underreact to this. Even though my inner night strike came out for a bit. I'm
honored that you would have an inner me.
Well, it shows that this is this is a topic that is very important, and it's something about which I'm passionate. And I Mikey Strikey, oh hell no.
Don't call me that. Whoever calls me that, I will.
The poor conservative says, "Good job, Mikey Strikey." I think he was saying that I was,
No, that's
Mike
that's
Strike.
also. No,
I know you're Mike as well.
Yeah, so that's what he's saying that to me. I know he is. Don't call me that ever.
Now, Kingpin, we're not going to go there ever. All right, guys. I just want to say thanks to you two for stopping by and being part of the panel tonight. I also want to thank everybody out there watching in the chat, those of you who participated and those who just sat back and kind of took it all in. I'm always amazed and humbled that any of you would choose to spend any time with me on on your valuable free time, and I'm glad that you chose to do this tonight. So thank you very much. I just want to leave you with, as always, my admonition to let your elected representatives and Congress critters know what you think, especially as they're trying to use, especially if one of your representatives is one of the filthy, egregious, dirty, poor excuses for human beings trying to exploit this atrocity for their own political gain. Let them know what you think about it. Send them a snail mail, email, phone call, telephone, telegraph, heliograph, carrier pigeon, smoke signals, bicycle messenger, a runner. Write them a note in a paper airplane and throw it in their general direction. Do whatever you have to do to let them know what you think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight.